Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about how to add forms into our Flask application. So today in class we created our Flask app and we should have at least 2 pages on there already. I'm going to be using the Flask application that I put inside of module 7 at the bottom. Alright, so first I'm going to walk you guys through the form that I already have in there, and then I'm going to show you how to create one that can use checkboxes if you want to return a list. All right, so let's look at the first one. Just to take a look at my file structure real quick, I do actually have my application in a folder, which is fine, as long as you know how to open the command line and be able to CD into where your actual Python file is. So for me, that's in here. All right. I do have a couple extra things in here that you might not have. Totally fine. No worries. All right. I'm going to delete this. I actually had 2 virtual environments in here and I only need 1. All right. So you should have your virtual environment in there, the static folder that also holds an image folder inside of it. And in that image folder is where you'll put all the pictures that you want to use in your website. All right. I'm going to go back to the Flask app. You also have the templates folder in here, and that's where all of your HTML files are. So all of your actual like web pages. All right. And last but not least, the thing that controls everything is your Python file that's inside there. All right. So first of all, let's take a look at the form that I created already. So if I want to see the templates for that form, I already have them pulled up over here in Notepad++. So I have 2 templates that are working together. I've got one that is my actual survey. And remember, you can name these pages whatever you want. So I named this one survey.html, and it's the one that actually has my form on it. All right, a couple things to note here. Inside of your form tag, you must have method equals post, like this, and you also need to have an action. Your action is going to refer to the route that you want to show the results on. So we're going to have the form on one page, and then when they click submit, it's going to take them to another page that shows the results of what they put into the form. All right. So this right here, this backslash results, let me show you where that's coming from. So I got my Python file over here. All right, let me scroll up a little bit so I can find these 2 routes. All right. So this is the route that actually has my form on this page. My survey.html is where my form is. All right. So all it has to do on the page that actually has the form is in your route, after you put the route name, you're going to have this piece of code right here. Methods equal get and post. Get allows us to see the form. Post allows us to put information in the form and send it to the web server. All right, we need both on the page that hosts the form. Up here, my results route, this is where I'm going to show the results of the data that the user put into the form. All right, and of course, I have to have my app route. I named it results, and it only really needs the post method. All right, it's kind of what is receiving the information from the form. This right here, the name of my route that's going to show the results, that needs to be the same thing that's over here in your action inside that form tag. All right. So inside of your form, you can have as many labels and inputs as you want. And to tell you guys the truth, I had AI create this form for me. You can do the exact same thing. All right. I do not care if you know how to create an HTML form right now. We're more worried about incorporating it into Flask. So what do I have here? I've got a label, and then I have the actual input box. For this one, this is just going to be a regular old text box. All right. What's important to us is this name attribute right here. All right. And then I also have another area where the user can put some input. This one is slightly different. It's just a text area instead of an input where type equals text. All right, but essentially they're the same thing. They're both places the user can type information in. And notice it also has a name attribute. These are important because this is how we're going to pull the information in from the form into the back end, into the Python code. All right, so let me show you guys what this form actually looks like. In order to do that, I'm going to have to actually run Flask. So I have already CD'd into my virtual environment, CD'd into the scripts folder, and ran that /activate command to actually activate my virtual environment. And then I CD'd right back into the folder that holds my Python file. If I type dir, I can see that I'm in the right place because there's my Python Flask application. All right. So now from here, the first time you run it, you're going to have to do this set Flask app equals. Do not put any spaces in here, by the way. And I'm going to set it equal to this right here. Yours may be named something different. That's okay. You put the name of your Python file. Hit enter. Now I can say python-m flask run. All right, grab this and paste it into a web browser, and we should be able to see the website. All right, cool. So I have already created a link to this survey or this form, and here's the page. So remember how it had a title, that's to enter the name. And then I have this text box down here and I can type a whole bunch of text in there, right? So those are my two inputs where the user can type something in. And then of course you have to have a submit button down here. All right, so that's just what it looks like on the front end. And remember, the name box is referenced by name, and the text area box is referenced by the name your underscore pets. All right, so when I come in here to my Python code, the actual route that hosts the form, we're not going to pull the information in there. All right, all we're going to do for that one is just render the page that has the form on it. That's it. It's up here in the results that we're actually going to pull in the information. So how do we do it? We create a Python variable. So of course you call it whatever you want. And then you're going to use this request.form. And inside of the square brackets, you're going to put whatever the value was for that name attribute. And I know it's a little confusing that the attribute is called name and the value of it is called name. But remember that I had the name attribute and I had the your pets. So if I go back one more time just to show you, the name is coming from here and the your pets information is coming from here. All right. And of course, you can call this whatever you want. It doesn't have to be called exactly what mine is, but the attribute part does have to be called name. All right. So back to the Python, I am pulling in the data from this text box, saving it as user underscore name. I'm pulling in the data from this text area, and I'm saving all that data in this user underscore pets. Now this print statement right here is not going to show up on the HTML page. It's going to print out in the Python terminal. This was strictly for testing. You do not have to have this in there, but if you want to make sure you're getting the right information, you can print it out to the Python terminal. All right, what is going on right here? This is completely not required for however you want your program to work. This was just something extra that I threw in here so I could have some logic. So what is it doing? It's grabbing this string from that text area. All right. And then it's saying, okay, let's assign, well, first of all, here's the string. I needed to strip off the period at the end because it was throwing off my logic. So all this does is if the user has a period at the end of the sentence, it just takes it away. This split method, if you remember, it takes a string and it splits that string up into a list of separate words. All right. And I'll print it out for you guys so y'all can see what I'm talking about. So this is going to give me eventually, this is going to be a list of words. All right. What I'm saying now is I'm creating another list of all these different kinds of animals that maybe the user will type something in about one of these animals. All right. Now I'm saying for each item in my pet type list, if that item is also in my pet string, which was essentially the data that I got from the user. So if they typed in the word dog, dogs, cat, cats, bird, any of these words happen to be in the string that they typed in, something's going to happen. And what's going to happen is I'm going to create a new variable called pet underscore type. And to it, I am going to assign item. Item is going to be whichever one of these existed in their sentence. All right. So this is all just basic Python code. Then what am I going to do? Well, if one of these things in the list happen to also be in that string, I'm going to return the template results.html. I'm going to have a placeholder in there called name. And to it, I'm going to pass in whatever my username was that I got from the form. All right. And I'm also going to have a placeholder in my HTML that's called your pets. And your pets is going to print out a string. You have a pet. Remember, this was whatever type of pet they had. All right. And pet type is just going to equal whatever pet type was. I don't even actually know if I ended up using that on my HTML page. I know I used this right here. Not even sure if I ended up putting this on the page itself. We'll take a look and see. All right, so now I've got this page coming back to me, my results, and I'm going to display the user's name. I'm going to display this string right here that's going to include if any of their pets matched up with my list. And I may or may not be using this, I can't remember. All right. So what we're going to do is take a look at this results.html and let's see what it looks like. All right. So all this part at the top, remember, these are just my links that take me from page to page, right? I'm going to create a heading that says thanks for the response. And now we're looking at a couple if-else statements in HTML. All right, so this is how you would create an if-else block in the HTML code. And what this is really saying is if they gave us anything for name. So did they type a name in that box? If they did, this is going to happen. If they did not put a name in the box, this is going to happen. And when I say happen, I mean print to the screen. All right. So if they put their name in, it's going to say hello, whatever their name is. If they failed to put a name in, it's just going to say hello, mysterious person with no name. In HTML, you have to end the if else blocks with this statement right here. If you don't put this at the end of your if else, it's going to throw an error. All right. So make sure that you have your if, your else, and you have to end it. Now you also can have some elifs in there, just like in regular old Python, right? So what's going on down here? I did use that pet type attribute. So if you remember, pet type was set to dog, dogs, cat or cats. Remember that list that I had? So if something matched up, I assigned that string to pet type. So if they type the word dog anywhere in that text area, or they typed dogs. So if pet type equals dog or it equals dogs, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to show a picture of a dog. All right, so I got an elif. If the pet type ended up being a cat or cats with an S, I'm going to show a picture of a cat. And then I said, okay, if the pet type was a fish, I've got a picture of a fish. All right, I don't think I finished it out. I think I put like snake or something else in that list, but I didn't have time for all that. All right, so then I ended my if block with this piece of code right here. And remember, this was my string that said it looks like you have a dog, cat, whatever. All right, so I got all my placeholders in here, and I also have my if else blocks. This is kind of like bringing in the logic to be able to say if something, do something else. So that's how we can control what pops up picture-wise. All right, so let me show you guys what happens when I run this. I come back over here. I'm still on this page. If I do not put in a name here, and I don't put anything in the message box, it should still work. All right, and it says, hello, mysterious person with no name. It doesn't look like you have any pets. So why is that it doesn't look like you have any pets showing up? Well, if I come back over here into my Python code, remember I told you guys in class that no matter which if statement happens, you have to return something. All right, so we said if item is in the pet string, so if what they typed in has any of these words in it, we're going to render the template results and we're going to pass in all of those variables to our placeholders. Well, even if they do not have any pets that were in that list, we still have to return some kind of template. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to return the same template, results.html, and name is going to equal username still. All right, that's no problem. Even if they don't type something in, it's fine. This will just essentially equal none. All right, and then for my your pets placeholder, that's where I typed in the string here. It doesn't look like you have any pets. So that's if the string they gave me didn't include any of these words up here. So no matter what happens, I'm still going to return the same template, but my placeholders are going to be different depending on if this happens or if that does not happen. Then we'll do this one. All right. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Y'all do have this code as well if you want to come in here and look at it. It's at the bottom in module 7. All right. So say I go back to the form. Now I do put it in a name. Let's say Janice. And Janice says, I have 2 cats named Bob and Sue. In my backend Python, it's going to break this string up and it's going to look at it word by word and it's going to be looking for cat, cats, dog, dog, whatever, right? That string or that list of strings that I had. And since the word cats is in here, look what happens. Oh, well, hello, Janice. You have a pet, and my grammar may not be correct, but you get the idea. You have a pet cats, and therefore it shows this picture of all these cats right here. All right, cool. If you want to stop there, if that makes sense to you and that gives you something to work with, awesome. I'm going to keep going because I've added another form to my website, and this one is going to use check boxes. So when I use the check boxes, I'm not just getting back one value at a time, I'm getting back a list of values. Let's take a look at that. So I actually have not created my link yet, so I have to go to it the old school way. So if you haven't created a link, you can still type in your route up here at the top. So I created an HTML page called Attitude Survey. I hit enter. Here it is. This is my attitude survey. Claude AI created this for me. I told it exactly what I wanted and it spit out the code. All right. So as you can see, I have a text box here, just old school, right? It's going to return one thing to me, whatever they type in. Then I also have a couple check boxes. So when you use the check boxes, it's going to return a list of whichever boxes you check. All right, it's going to return these values here for these different words, I guess you could say. Oops. All right, let's take a look at the HTML code that actually makes this form over here. So I come back. Now I'm going to look at my attitude survey. All right, nice. Title is just a placeholder. The survey name is a placeholder. Remember that our form has to have the post method and it has to have an action. And the action should point to the route name of whatever page is going to show the results. All right. And here's my label and input for that name box. And then these are all my labels and inputs for all of the different check boxes that I have. I've got 4 of them. All right. Notice that for each of these check boxes, the type is checkbox. It has an ID. Oh, There's that name again. All right, very important. It has to have a name attribute. And since these are going to all work together, like any of these could be a selected trait, all four of my checkboxes have the same value for the name attribute. You want yours to be like that if you want to be able to return a list of the boxes that are checked. So if you need to pause it, maybe you want to make something similar to this, feel free. All right. So let's look at the actual Python code now that's going to pull the value from the form. Did I close it out? I think I did. Sorry about that. All right, here we go. Oh, by the way, you guys, if you have to import this request up here at the top or this isn't going to work. Okay. Don't forget. You should have a render template. You should have Flask, obviously. You should have requests. You should have URL4. This is going to help you create your links. The redirect and Flash, I don't think I'm using right now. All right. So let's take a look at our attitude survey. Remember, this is the page that holds the form, and it has to have both the get and post methods. And it's just going to render the template that has our form on it. I've got a couple little placeholders over here, no big deal. I just got a title and a survey name. That's it. All right, so just some little placeholders that I created because it made sense on that page. Now, I have a second route that's going to take me to my results page. And remember that the results page needs to have the post method as one of its attributes. All right. And then, of course, I'm going to define my attitude results function. And here I am just pulling in that name from that single text box. It's only going to give me one value. Right. Now, in order to pull in those check boxes as a list, I need to do something a little bit different. I need to say request.form.getList. I'm still going to pass in the value of my name attribute. And remember, for all four check boxes, that was the same value. It was this right here, this traits with the list, with the empty list on it. All right, cool. So what am I going to do now? Well, I'm not even displaying returning any placeholders right now. All I'm doing is printing to the screen whatever those two variables are. So I'm printing out my cat name and I'm printing out the attributes. Remember, this is going to be a list right here. All right. And then always, always at the end of these functions, you have to return something. And it's always for us going to be rendering a template. So right now I haven't actually like displayed anything to the HTML page. All I'm doing is printing it in the Python terminal. But let's go ahead and test it out and see what happens. So I'm going to come back to the actual survey. I'm going to put in a name. Let's say Yoshi. And Yoshi is stubborn, sassy, and funny. So I've got 3 of the 4 check boxes selected. Whenever I hit submit, all right, it did take me to the attitude results page. But remember, I don't have any code in there yet, really. All I have is this background set up. And guess what? Claude made this background and all this for me. I just asked it to make me something pretty with a purple background and a border, and it did. All right. So let's look back at the actual Python terminal, though. We should have some output over there. All right, awesome. So the cat Yoshi is sassy, stubborn, and funny. So we're getting all of the information back just as we expect. Remember, this was just going to give us one value, whatever's in that cat name box. And this here gives us back the 3 values of the boxes that we checked. Awesome. So now what I want to do is come into the HTML for this attitude results. And I'm going to put a little bit of HTML code in here so that I can actually print some stuff to this page. So let me come back down here. And here is my attitude underscore results page.html. And very simple. It's got a title in there. And this was the styling that Claude fixed up for me, made everything look pretty. And remember, I'm going to put my tags inside of these two body tags. I'm going to make an H2 heading. And for now, I'm going to say cat name. Remember, these are just my placeholders. I'm going to have to come back in the Python and set these values. I'm going to say is. All right. And now I'm going to, let me look up real quick because we can write a for loop in HTML. So I'm going to say Flask HTML for loop real quick. Let's see if this tells us. All right, here it is. All right, so this is using a dictionary. I don't want to use that example. I don't want to confuse you guys. It's all wanting to do dictionaries. Okay, no worries. It looks like we just need to write a for loop just like we would write it normally in Python, except we need to make sure that it has an end for at the bottom like this. So let's test that out. I haven't actually done that yet. All right, we come back to the HTML and we are going to say, looks like this, for trait in, and I'm just making up variables as I go. I'll have to go back in the Python and fill them in. For trait in cat traits, and got to do my percent sign and my curly brace. All right, so that should print out all of those check boxes, the list of strings that we had, right? And then let's go ahead and I guess we can just go right in here and say, okay, end for. Make sure I did that right. I'm gonna look back over here. Okay. We may actually need to come in here and create like a list, like an ordered list or an unordered list to actually hold or print out those values. I'm gonna do it like this. I'm gonna say, okay, I want to create a unordered list in here, and I'm going to, let me hit enter. Don't let this confuse you. All I'm doing is restructuring things so it makes more sense. All right. Remember that if I want to make an unordered list, I have to eventually close it up. And then inside of these two tags, I can have as many list items as I want. Now, I don't actually know how many traits I'm going to have in here. So let me look back over here how they did theirs. Let's just try to do it once like this. Let's say list item, LI, and I'm going to open my curly braces, double curly braces, and remember this is the thing that we are going to, that's our variable that works for the loop. So I'm going to say trait, do like this, and I'm going to close my list item. All right, let me save this. And now I need to go back into my Python code. And I had two things that I'm going to have to pass in. I'm going to have to pass in cat name and a list called cat traits. All right, so I've got my return render template. It's going to return my attitude results page. And I need to say cat name is going to be set to this Python variable here. All right, and comma. Then I've got my cat traits. Remember that's the placeholder in the HTML. And I'm going to set that equal to this list that I have here. Okay, I'm just going to paste it in. Awesome. So let's save this and let's see what we've got. I need to, since I'm not running this anymore, I need to save it. And let's make sure I saved my HTML. Looks like I did. All right. For some reason, I have to stop my server every time and restart it. No big deal. All right. So I come back over here. Let me go back to my form. My info is still there. I'm going to hit submit. All right. It actually looks pretty good. Right? That was my cat name. And that list that we did where we did the for loop, it looks perfect, right? So for every item in the list, it's creating a list item and it's printing out the name, right? That trait. So if I go back, maybe I put in something else. Betty, she's the sweetest cat I have. So we'll say that she is sweet or funny and gentle. All right, I click submit. Perfect. Betty is funny and gentle. Now I actually do have a couple images um, that I want to display with each of these traits. If you wanted to stop here, totally fine. I'm going to keep going just in case you guys are interested in seeing the rest of it. So what I'm going to do is come back over here into my HTML, and I do have 4 images, by the way, that represent each of those traits. All right. So let's say this is going to print out the trait, right? I'm going to put some if statements in here. So it looks like this. If trait is equal to, what was one of them? Sassy. Sorry about that. I'm not used to this HTML syntax. All right. If trait is equal to sassy, we will use our image tag. And remember, we've got to give it a source. That's how we tell it what image to print. I'm going to press enter here just to give myself a little bit more room. And those come from our static folder, and inside of that is the images folder, and then is the name, and I named it sassy.jpg. All right, nice. So what I'm going to do, we need to close it up though. Remember, you have to do that end if, what does it say? Let's look at this one over here, right, like this, end if. All right, so let me go back to my results. I'll just go ahead and paste that in there. I need a couple more statements, right? Because I've got 4 traits and I actually have 4 separate images. So what I'm going to do is let me put each one of these if else on its own line. Might make it a little bit easier to read. I'm going to copy this guy right here. I am going to make this one an elif. And what was my second? I don't remember. Come back. Gentle, stubborn, and funny. So this one should be gentle. And my image is also appropriately named gentle.jpg. Awesome. Do another one. I'm going to make it an elif. Man, my brain is terrible. Look back, stubborn. Okay. All right. So I'm sure I named that one stubborn.jpg. And let me make the last one. I do remember this one. This was funny, right? And my picture is funny.jpg. All right, cool. So I'm hoping each one of those traits is going to print out, and then underneath it, depending on what trait it is, it's going to have an image associated with it that will also hopefully display. All right, let me save this. And I'm going to come back, make sure I save my Python. It looks good. I have to restart my server, no big deal. Control C. And I'm going to press my up key to bring that run command back, hit enter. You don't have to paste this in every time. You can still come back to this page and refresh. All right, so let's see. Got a cat named Pebbles. She is sassy and gentle. So let's submit. All right, very good. So her name and the 2 traits that I chose. And then after each one of those traits, it shows a specific picture, right? That's my sassy cat and that's my gentle cat down there. Alrighty, so hopefully that gives you guys something to work with to make something your own. It doesn't have to be super involved, right? As long as the user can put some information into the form and then that information is displayed again on another page. If y'all have any questions, if something's not working for you, remember that if you run Flask and you get a page that says like internal server error, you should still always be able to come back to the Python code and read what the error is over here. All right, so anytime something's not working, first come back to this page and see if it has some kind of Python error that you can understand, and then you can fix it and then try to run it again. All right. If y'all have any issues, don't hesitate to email me, send me some screenshots, let me know what's going on. All right. Good luck, and I hope y'all can make something cool.